Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of the Mining in the Prospector series. Today we're going to go over utilizing an upgraded prospector to maximize your profits. Before we get into it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and remember to follow over on Twitch, where you can catch our stream every Sunday and Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Today we'll be mining out of ArcCorp and using the surface of Lyria. As I did explore her L3, which was a common hot zone for me, it really seems to have dwindled down a bit. Lyria currently is producing a large amount of Quantanium, and for me in the org, it seems to be the best place to get results. Before we jump in the Prospector though, I'm going to cover a few tips that I recommend in order to be successful. Number 1, know your location that you're planning on mining. This is key, so if you find Quantanium, you know what time frame you have to mine and extract before needing to leave to go back to the refinery due to the volatile nature of Quantanium. For us here on Lyria, our refinery is going to be Arc L1. And one key thing with refineries is that different refineries do specialize and offer bonuses on certain ores or deductions for others. You can see what they offer in the top left corner of the refinery screen when setting up your order. Arc L1 has no bonus or deductions for Quantanium, so we should get a pretty fair price. Tip number 2, ship upgrades. A stock prospector can earn AUEC, though in an upgraded one you're going to earn a whole lot more. You don't really need to upgrade everything, but what I would recommend is start with the Quantum Drive. Stock, it's going to have a Goliath Quantum Drive, which typically means you're going to need to leave the area with about 10.5 minutes left on the clock, as this allows for plenty of time to land and get to the ASOP to store your ship. But you'll maximize your time by going with an Atlas or a Voyage Quantum Drive. The Voyage can be found at Cousin Crows by Genie Point through L4 for about 15,600 AUEC. An Atlas can be found at her L5 for 17,900 AUEC. Either one is an excellent choice, and when using these, I'll depart the surface at about 8.5 minutes left on the clock. Tip number 3, mining head and consumables. I highly recommend using a Lancet MH1 mining head. This tends to be the most reliable and stable there is, and it's available on any refinery for 23,500 AUEC. With this, it allows for 3 consumable slots. These can be persistent and require no activation by the pilot, or active and require an input to activate it, and has limited uses, usually about 5 shots before running out. I will load out the Prospector with the Torrent 3 and the Focus 3 persistent modules. These are 40,000 apiece, and easiest place to acquire is her L2, as they're both available there. Yes, they're a bit more pricey, but they do an excellent job, and the first semi-decent rock you find, you're going to more than cover the expense. Though if you do want to go less expensive, there are level 1 and level 2 models of these, and they're going to have a reduced effect. As for an active module, I choose the Surge. This is available at Lorville at Tammany & Sons, her L1, Port Olisar, and New Babbage at Shubin Interstellar, and costs 1,400 AUEC for each 5-shot module. This does require pilot interaction to fire and provides 5 uses before needing to be reloaded. To activate a pilot, hits left Alt plus number 1, number 2, or number 3 depending on which slot it's loaded into on the mining head. This provides for a powerful burst from the mining head that quickly pushes the gauge nearly to the green level when breaking a rock. Caution is definitely needed, because more than one shot you can push it easily into the red way past the point of being able to recover, and you're going to explode the rock. I choose these as my favorites because it gives me the best results. And even on a medium mass rock, if I'm out of surge, the 2 persistent modules are enough to break a rock with some patience. As with all consumables, if your ship is destroyed, then you're going to need to replace them, so keep that in mind as you're flying around and make sure you avoid hazards. Now, one correction from the last video, I actually stated that you weren't able to transport mining modules from where you purchased them to where you're going to be mining, and I was incorrect. At the time, my inventory was just broken. You can place them on a ship and transfer them. You just have to make sure that you offload them to the local inventory when you arrive at your refinery or mining area or station. My 4th tip is mine in a group if possible. This actually sounds counterproductive, though it really isn't. Flying solo is great, and finding things on your own is completely possible. But there may be long periods of time in between finishing one rock and finding another. What I have found is in a party, if you set it up correctly, you can actually find more rocks than you can actually mine. We ran a party on 2 different days with 3 to 4 mining ships, mostly prospectors and 1 Argo mole, and we also had one org member acting as a spotter. We found that once we got started and the spotter found large groupings, they were almost always Quantanium and usually had one or more excellent rocks at 25% or higher, and the masses ranged from 3,700 to 7,200 or higher. As the spotter discovered them, we deployed a mining vessel to mine it, and then the spotter moved on, and when all said was done, we all had mineable rocks before the first ship even finished breaking theirs down. By the time we got to the refinery and back on the surface, the spotter was actually having to wait on us with new rocks that he had already discovered. Once we started, there was literally no break or waiting to find another suitable rock. Now, not all of them were 100% full Quantanium loads, though a number of them were. They ranged no less than half of full load to a full ship of Quantanium. This made it easier for us as we didn't have to fly around searching and scanning and trying to find a suitable rock to mine. The Scout actually made out as well, as typically each miner forwarded them a finder's fee of either a flat rate or a percentage, so they made quite a bit of AUEC as well. The 2 days we did this, I alone paid out 200,000 AUEC, and then add that on top of what everybody else gave them, he made a pretty hefty profit. In the future, to maximize this, we're actually going to be utilizing a local box delivery mission to place the boxes at the rocks as markers so the Scout can continue and not have to wait on anyone. The second benefit to this is that if you are in a prospector and come across a rock that's just too big for you to break on your own, a second prospector can easily lend a hand on a rock as big as 8,000 mass to make the first break, in which case nothing goes to waste and both parties can actually fill up. But don't get me wrong, it's completely able to mine solo and be profitable. Though when solo, I usually limit myself to 5,700 mass before I say it's too big for me to break on my own. And solo, you're going to spend a large amount of time searching for a good rock that's suitable to mine. On Lyria, good practice going solo, though, is to aim from an OM towards the edge of a darker colored ground patch, as these are usually where the mountains are coming down to level ground and the best place to search for Quantanium. My fifth and final tip is when faced with a large grouping, there's typically going to be one or more rocks of decent size. But don't hesitate to break those down as well as all the smaller ones around it that contain Quantanium. Then go back and extract the highest percentages, and if need be, top off with the smaller bits, or if there are no more Quantanium rocks to grab, the next most valuable ore to fill up your prospector. There's no reason in the world to go back without being full, because everything eventually turns into AUEC in the long run. So much like the last video, the process to break the rock is the same. Fly your ship up until the green meter in the top left indicates an optimal range, and I'll usually turn my limiter almost all the way down and I'll activate VTOL. And then when you're ready, fire your laser. I don't usually immediately fire the surge as I look to see how the gauge reacts. You should see some movement after a few seconds. Now with the UI glitch currently, it can be very difficult to see, but what I do is on a light background is I look at the black drop shadow on the right side of the gauge, as this can easily be seen and is a good indicator of where your charge gauge currently is. When you're on a darker background, I'll watch the left side of the gauge as it's easier to tell where it is on the left edge. Some org members have also stated turning the brightness down on their monitors has helped significantly. I've not personally tried this myself, but you can always attempt it and see if it helps. Once the gauge starts climbing a bit, I will then fire the surge, which is going to push it into or nearly to the green charge zone. And once it's up there, I'll have my laser on max. I'll make small increments down from there to try and keep it in the green. Also pay close attention to if it crosses into the red, at which point immediately back down or turn off the mining head and let it cool. You're going to know this because you're going to get an audible warning about it as well. Just continue making small adjustments to keep the gauge in the green until it breaks. Once you get past the first break, you'll not need the surge for any secondary breaks. Using this is guaranteed to immediately throw it into the overcharge zone and destroy the rock completely, and probably yourself. So even on an 8,000 mass rock, don't use the surge after the first break. After the secondary break, you can move on to break any other rocks in the area or begin to extract. Always look for the highest percentages first and work your way down from there till your ship is full. Once you hit that full mark, point to the sky and hightail it to the refinery. It can be very helpful if you set the course in your mobiGlas before breaking your first rock as well. And when mining, keep an eye on that clock in the lower right hand corner that indicates when your Quantanium will turn volatile. This will not actually appear until you start extracting though. Once you're back at the refinery, you want to make sure you go directly to the ASOP and store your ship. This is going to stop the clock on your Quantanium and allow you time to get to the refinery. Once you're down in the refinery, you can either sell your ore raw and get immediate AUEC for it, or maximize that profit by refining it. I will say refining is well worth the time it takes. If done with the right method, you can more than double your profits. I always make sure to choose Dinnick solvenation, as this provides the highest profit available as well as the most acceptable cost. Go through and select your ship and then select the ores you want to refine. Any ores you don't select are going to be lost for good. And then click quote. It'll tell you what time frame and cost the job is going to be. If it's acceptable to you, click confirm and you're all set. While waiting, I will usually continue to mine and rack up numerous jobs in the refinery. Really, there is no limit to how many you can have going at once. Then, once my refinery job is done, I'll load it into a cargo ship by selecting the job, use the drop-down menu to select the ship, but keep in mind you do have to have the ship there in order to select it. Then I'll store it to the ship until I have all the jobs I want, or I run out of space on the ship. If you do run out of space and don't have enough room for all of the jobs that you have, don't worry. It won't load a partial job into your ship, and anything you can't load is going to stay in the refinery until you can come back and claim them in a future time. After that, I take it to the TDD at the closest planet, in this case ArcCorp, and sell it. And that's it. You're done. Just repeat the process and you can always have available AUEC sitting in the refineries whenever you need it. In total this run, I actually mined 11 rocks. I paid out $85,600 for consumables, $200,000 in finder's fees, and I made a profit after these costs of roughly 1.78 million AUEC, all in about 7 hours of gameplay between 2 nights, which really equates to roughly 250,000 AUEC per hour. Now, I also did make some additional AUEC from org members that split some profits with me for assisting on other rocks, and definitely I say thank you to them for that, but overall the experience was a blast. The money was good, and a few beers got drank. Personally, the Prospector is definitely one of my favorite ways to make AUEC in Star Citizen, and honestly, I believe it's one of the more relaxing and peaceful ways to really enjoy the game. I hope that this guide and these tips have really been beneficial for you, and don't hesitate to leave comments to let me know what your experiences are, because I always enjoy hearing from everybody. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button though, and follow over on Twitch, and catch our stream every Wednesday and Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, or catch our State of the Verse podcast as we go over all the news and info of the week live on Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Also remember, our final ship giveaway is December 15th as we give away an Argo Raft. Get your entries in by subscribing and leaving a comment here on any video, or follow over on Twitch, and you'll get an entry for each one of those that you do, up to a maximum of 2. And good luck to everybody on that giveaway. To help support the channel though, check out the Patreon, the merch store, or hit that join button above and get a membership for as low as 99 cents a month. I really do want to thank everybody for all the support. It is greatly appreciated. Until next time though, happy mining to everybody out there, and we will see you next time.